Welcome back to the Christianity and Business Podcast, an initiative of the RTW Dunham College of Business at Houston Christian University. I'm your host, Darren Shear, and this is the show that helps Christian business leaders to integrate biblical values into business. On this episode, we're joined by Kurt and Kristen Luidhardt. Kurt and Kristen are the co-founders of the Prosper Group, a leading digital agency in Republican politics and conservative advocacy, which was established in 2006. So they've been a part of a lot of people getting elected, a key part in a lot of people getting elected. Under their leadership, the firm has played a pivotal role in the election of 103 members of Congress, 15 U.S. senators, 14 governors, and one president. I assume this is updated information. Do we need to add any? I know there's a couple of elections that were still pending.
Yeah, well, I mean, since we sent our bio over, we've got one more governor elected in November, so we now can say 15 governors.
Awesome.
And you know, I think another member of Congress, we might be up to 104.
Yeah. So their innovative digital strategies have garnered over 36 awards, and their expertise has extended internationally, working on campaigns and advocacy efforts in Mexico, Brazil, Ireland, and Belgium. And in addition to their political victories, Kurt and Kristen are leading experts in the Liberty Spenders market, a $5 trillion economy of conservative and Christian consumers who prioritize spending with brands that share their values. And they've been married 20 years and have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, which is just awesome. Kurt and Kristen, welcome to the Christianity and Business Podcast.
We're happy to be here.
Yes, we're excited.
So when did y'all first realize God wanted to be involved in your work and business?
You know, we were blessed to go to Indiana Wesleyan University, and the integration of faith and values in work was really a big emphasis there. And, you know, what first comes to mind with that question was we had a wonderful college professor named Dr. Glenn Martin, who's now passed away. And he was the political science professor at Indiana Wesleyan. And we thought when you go to college for a political science degree, you're going to learn about polling and statistics, and you're going to learn about how to message and public relations. And Dr. Martin's teaching was more about political thought, theory, and worldview. And it was the first time I'd ever considered these concepts of worldview. I grew up in a Christian household, so Christian. And it was the first time when we sort of integrated, in my mind, my faith with my career, what I wanted to do in politics. And so that would be my answer. I probably stole Kristen's answer because I know how much impact he had on her life too.
Yeah, he did. I just think it was really impactful to tie that together. You know, I think a lot of times, really anybody, but people of faith too, it can be kind of separate, right? Or segregated. This is what I do with my life, and this is my faith. And when you can have a holistic view and realize actually this informs everything else, your faith informs everything else, that's really powerful. It affects how you see the world, how you parent your children, how you show up to work, all of those things. And so I think, yes, that education, tying it into a overall worldview and how I see the world and how it affects government and business, and it's really all encompassing. So that was very instrumental for me as well.
Yeah. And so you've got several different ventures and have been entrepreneurs for a long time, but specifically for Liberty Spenders, to help us understand kind of the impact that's being made. What's one of your favorite stories that illustrates the impact being made by Liberty Spenders?
Well, you know, the concept there really is that consumers are taking a more systematic approach these days to examining the companies they do business with and what their values are. And it's changing buying behavior. Probably the biggest story, and the one that's most personal to us, is, you know, we discovered months ago that as parents with kids in diapers, that we when we were buying from some of these bigger brands, that they were supporting Planned Parenthood, which seems kind of counterintuitive, like a diaper brand supporting Planned Parenthood.
Right.
And we
Counter That's
thought,
counterproductive to your business model, right?
yeah, exactly. And we thought we got to find a better brand. And there had recently launched, maybe a year or so ago, a company called Every Life that, instead of supporting Planned Parenthood, donates a lot to crisis pregnancy centers and other charities that support women in difficult pregnancies. And we found a new brand that we love, and we use them now for wipes and diapers. And I actually had a great opportunity to talk to their company CEO yesterday, just by chance. Maybe not by chance, by divine appointment. We'll see. But and we were having a great conversation about the business they're building and the growth they're seeing, because we're not the only parents that see that sort of contradiction.
Mhm. What's the best way to find out about the worldview of some of these companies and their top shareholders? I know the corporate equality index is one where, if you want to find out how radical a company is in, for example, advancing the gay agenda, you can go look at this corporate equality index. You can see that Nike and probably I don't remember exactly. I know that 3/4 of Fortune 500 companies are participating actively
Hmm.
in this corporate equality index, and several have recently said, we're not, like Lowe's and Tractor Supply said, we're not going to participate
Mm-hmm.
in this anymore. Like, how do you find out what these companies really stand for?
Well, it's remarkably easy in some respects, because a lot of them you can just Google, because
Mhm.
they're so public
Yeah.
about where they stand, because they feel, some of them, that they want to appeal to these communities. And so they want to trumpet that they are, supporting a gay agenda, or supporting Planned Parenthood, or supporting, pretty aggressive DEI initiatives. And so you can often just find it there. But the truth is, it can be sometimes hard to find. And uh, as well, because some companies don't make it really obvious. But there are good places to find good companies. Where we found Every Life Diapers was on a website called Public Square, and they have 85,000 plus people registered on Public Square, who are businesses that have pledged to follow, Christian and conservative values. They support American-made products wherever possible, various things like that. So that's a good place to find some good quality businesses that support, our values.
Is that what Public Square really is a place to find out about, which companies are really worthy of supporting?
It's not, they're not going to give you a rating of companies that are
Yeah.
out there. It's just that anybody that wants to sell on their platform has to agree to their kind of credo of how you run your business. So by shopping at Public Square, which for those of you who may not be familiar with it, they're trying to basically build an Amazon for these types of businesses. And so it is a marketplace where you know that any business that you shop or that you partake in through that platform is going to adhere to a certain set of values, because they have to sign on to that, and they're vetted through Public Square. So that is one place to start. And you may not have heard of these businesses, but you're supporting a lot of you're supporting a lot of small businesses this way, and your money can really be making a difference.
Yeah. What do you say to people who see this as just a marketing gimmick, or just a way to differentiate their companies in a crowded market? Like, how important is this?
Well, I mean, there is both a values outcome and sort of a changing the world outcome, I think, by being a Christian business owner who follows Christian principles of integrity, honesty, and things like that. And on its merits alone, that would be worth doing as a business owner, just to honor God in your everyday activities. But we argue to businesses, it's also not bad to tell some people about it either, because there's a group of consumers out there who are looking for it. And when they find it, they're loyal. They stick with you through thick and thin, because they not just believe that you might be selling the best soaps or coffees or, cars or whatever, but they also know that you support, Christian values or Christian charities or something. And so uh, you're connecting with them on a level that you're well beyond the particular merits of a product. And so it can be both, something that's good for the kingdom from just by honoring God, but also something that helps attract people to you.
Yeah. What are some of the other companies we need to know about who are providing these alternatives to a lot of these extremely radically liberal companies that are out there?
Well, there's a number of companies that we talk about, and we just recently launched a book trying to help businesses understand how they might be able to take advantage of this strategy. And so we highlight one that's really well known. Um, I mean, we know about Hobby Lobby, we know about Chick-fil-A. They've been doing this long before we came up with any of those strategies, but there's 7 Weeks Coffee. There is Black Rifle Coffee Company. He mentioned Every Life Diapers. There are, Ultra Right Beer Company that's launched. They were launched in response to Bud Light and their kind of marketing misstep. And so there's just a number of very successful companies that are using this strategy and really trying to connect on the subject of values.
Patriot Mobile is a great one for wireless service. Strive Asset Management, if you're somebody who's looking for a place to invest funds. And we just
XY Athletics.
Yeah, XXY Athletics. There's Three Nails, which also is an athletic brand, which with a Christian, it's a Three Nails for the cross, a Christian brand. And there's really there's a ton of these kinds of companies at various levels. Some are very upfront. Patriot Mobile, if you go to their website, their slogan is America's only Christian and conservative wireless provider. And then there's some that are just honoring God, and other people have discovered that on their own.
Yeah. Aside from this being a branding differentiator, as we are representing and living out Christian values, we want our customers to know that, so they'll do business with us. What's some of the most distinct or unique expressions of the Christian faith that you've seen that are just not mainstream?
That's a really good question. I think of several policies that companies have about, helping their employees by either giving them when they're closed on Sunday, and again, going back to Hobby Lobby, Chick-fil-A, but other businesses that have policies that just support them in their desire to live out their faith. They have great, support for various faith journeys, or how they treat people in times of crisis. There's a number of ways you can do that. You can also market by the charities that you may support. So this isn't anything new, but perhaps I'm going to commit to donating a portion of my profits, a portion of revenue, to further the kingdom through charitable organizations. And so there's really a number of ways you can do that. Now, you asked for things that aren't mainstream, and there's plenty of, quote, mainstream companies that would do that, but maybe not in the way that would directly speak to what we feel like God has called us to do, and to take those matters of faith and be very public about it.
We've met in this journey so many people who I think were led to do some pretty crazy things. And some of them feel pretty normal. When we interviewed the founder of 7 Weeks Coffee, 2 weeks after he was married, he felt a calling to support crisis pregnancy centers. And before he started his business, he pledged to give a percentage of his profits, I think probably before he wrote his business plan. But he's stuck true with it, and he's been able to support 850 different crisis pregnancy centers across the country. I was really moved by a veteran that we interviewed who really exposed something interesting. And this may be a little less of a faith thing, as much as I just think this is an interesting thing he's accomplished, was how difficult it was. He makes t-shirts. How difficult it was to make every element of the t-shirt in the U.S. As a veteran, he wanted to do it all in the U.S. He didn't want to buy anything from China if he could avoid it. And he said it took him a couple of years to source everything from the dyes to the t-shirts themselves to the material. And some of the stuff he said just doesn't get made in America anymore. Uh, you can't get it here. And I just thought that journey, he felt he wanted to do that, and he's been committed to doing it faithfully and not try to kind of go around the edges and say, well, I got the t-shirt in China, but it's, I put the wording on in America so that, we're going to claim it's American made. So I thought that was really interesting, the integrity he's had trying to get that done properly. And then
I have a big coffee.
yeah, I have a bean. Oh, how did I forget about these guys? If you want to ugly cry, Darren, you got to go to ihaveabean.com. They're a roaster based in Wheaton, Illinois. And he has a passion for hiring ex-cons. He would call them post-prison. And that's all who work for him. And his story about why he does that is just amazing. He started it by hiring a relative who had gotten out of prison, and his PEO, the payroll provider he was using, tried to force him to fire him because he had a criminal record. And he thought, if it's that hard, it's hard for me to hire my own relative. It's got to be hard for others. And the story he tells there is so unbelievable because their theme is, we make the world's top coffee. We're in the best 1% in the world in top coffee. And he said, it's amazing to take somebody who comes out of prison who thinks they're in the bottom 1% of the world because they've been in prison and tell them, we're going to put you in charge of making something that's the top 1%. And he says the change in their attitudes when they're given that, when somebody puts that kind of faith in them, is amazing. And he has a great video that was actually made by a bunch of Christian college students, I think, that before I met him, I went to his website, watched that video, and I'm in a coffee house crying like just horrible. I'm sure people were wondering who died. But it was such a compelling story. And this whole concept of, people who feel like they're in the bottom 1%, that attitude change. There's a story in the video where one of the workers says he was given keys to the building. Mm-hmm. And he said, no one has given me keys. No one has trusted me with keys to anything in, years. And how meaningful it was to him when his boss gave him keys and said, you're going to be able to come and go as you please. And he was trusted. So I'm glad you remembered that one. I almost want to cry just talking about it. But it's good. So it's ihaveabean.com. You got to go. You got to hunt for the video. It's kind of in the.
Well, and it's how he's living out, biblical principles of redemption, forgiveness, faith, and all of those things. And that's just who he hires to do the work. That's not part of his business, but that is one way he's living that out. And so when we talk to, clients, you got to figure out what's authentic and true for you. And that's what makes it real. That's what makes it not a marketing gimmick, right? Is what does that mean for you? And what are the choices that you're going to make that are where you're going to put your stamp on these things? And it's different for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are some of my favorite examples of how companies and their leaders are serving God in businesses is second chance employment. And, I was just thinking last night, actually, about one of the best examples of second chance employment in the Bible is David and his mighty men, right? Mm-hmm. These guys were broke, busted, and disgusted, like in every way. But they got around the king and it transformed their lives. And these guys turned into giant killers, which some of them sounded pretty rough and may have been able to kill a giant to begin with. I don't know, but yeah, I just love those examples. That's one of the hallmarks of companies that are serving God is second chance employment. One of the other most evident examples is what the companies are giving to charitably. I mean, those are the expressions of the culture. You got companies that are giving toward pro-life causes, and then you got another company that will, like Nike, DoorDash, that are going to give toward. You can get a scholarship if you're a teenager and you want a scholarship to get to mutilate your body, to convince yourself you're a different sex, which is never going to happen. then you can apply for one of these Nike and DoorDash scholarships to be able to do that. And so, yeah, I mean the causes, and I'm sure Nike and give DoorDash give to causes like feeding programs and things like that that we would all agree is something that's worthy to be given to. But then there are these other things that we ought to do our
Yeah.
research and find out what is happening with our money
Hmm.
when we support these businesses.
Well, and the more that we can support other businesses that we feel like are again committed to the things that we're committed to, again, I just think that that furthers the kingdom, because as business owners and as leaders of employees, if we are pouring into our employees, if we're investing in them, if we are being good, um, citizens of the community, those are the things that make impact in people's lives. And you mentioned again our political background, but really what led us to shifting and adding this part of the focus is God really showing us. I mean, we've known this for some time. I think the right politics matter, but no politician's going to save us. We don't put our faith there. Um, and so, being able to have an impact again through the people that we employ, the customers we serve, and how are we living out those godly principles and how we treat other people? How are we shining a light on those things? How are we using our profits to again honor God and further his kingdom in whatever way that we feel led to do that? Those things are important. And as a group of people, of believers, if we can come alongside each other and help each other, again, by supporting each other, I mean, that just grows exponentially. And that's what's so exciting is, yes, you can use it to market, and it's a great way to signal that and to attract customers to you. But that and that alone would not, be the motivating force for us. It's what does that do? What does the success of that business mean for you? What does that allow you to do? How can God work through you in that way?
Yeah. Yeah, and supporting the community. I mean, this is your faith community
Hmm.
is massive. I remember I used to live in New York City, and walking through the Diamond District, it doesn't take you long to realize that you were in a very Jewish
Hmm.
economic world right there,
Yeah.
and so and the Jewish people have understood this for centuries. And but I think there's so many denominational divisions that we kind of lose sight of the community and the opportunity that we have to strengthen the body of Christ by doing business with each other. And
Mhm.
and sadly the stereotypical story that is shared when Christians do business together is something that goes really bad.
Yes.
Hmm.
Or it's a really pushy promoter of some sort of multi-level system at church. And I mean I've got some friends from church that we're getting ready to go to court over a legal dispute having to do with a construction project, and been working to try to mediate and resolve that. And thankfully, it's not going to court, and it is being resolved.
Wonderful.
Good.
But these things really ought not to scare us away from
Mhm.
being more intentional about supporting our fellow believers in the marketplace.
Absolutely. There's a great group just getting started called Christian Business Alliance that's attempting to set up small groups within churches all over the country so business owners can sort of connect with each other. And I love that because if you look at the statistics across the board, uh, a third of all entrepreneurs say that they feel super lonely. Um, Suicide rates and other things are higher amongst that group, and they just feel alone. I think it's a great opportunity for the church to come in. And things like what you described, I think, scare a lot of church leadership. They don't want to feel like they're in a position of having to mediate disputes between church members over business issues.
Mhm.
But that shouldn't scare us off as a church from getting involved in the marketplace. And it's a positive way to have a ton of impact on a lot of people who just feel kind of alone leading a big business, and there's no one to talk to about the challenges you're running
Yeah.
into and the stresses that you're facing. I know I feel that as an entrepreneur. Even in my own church, we have wonderful, wonderful people. Uh, but sometimes it's just talking to another Christian businessman or woman is what I need, because they've been there.
Yeah.
They've dealt with that, and others may not have. Even great people who we're in fellowship with, they'll pray for us, but they just don't have the same. Like, we can't connect on it. Hey, I've been there level.
Yeah. So in the Liberty Spenders model, how do you partner with companies to be able to reach the Christian market?
Yeah. Well, we did a deep dive into this when we begun to think about how can we have a greater impact on the business community, and identified a really wide audience of people, 76.5 million of folks who are Christian or are conservative or are both, who want to hear and do business with companies that share their values. Once we knew that, it's really just a question of, well, how do you do this properly? How do you talk about your convictions, particularly things of faith and maybe of politics, as part of your business? That's a little counterintuitive, right?
What?
I mean,
You're going to talk about,
Yeah.
business or faith and politics? That's
Yeah.
a big no-no.
yeah, let's stay
Yeah.
away from that. And so we talked. We when we work with somebody, we help them navigate those waters. I think as a person of faith, and you described it a little bit yourself, even I'm a little suspicious of somebody who talks about faith in a way that feels very selfish, right? Um, Generally, I found in the past, if a contractor or somebody is really, 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 really overemphasizing their faith, they're usually compensating for something. So it's a process that we walk people through about how to talk about faith. Who do you really want to target? Because every business has a different audience, right? If they're selling a product for children, they're targeting parents. And we help walk them through finding in that 76.5 million the audience of people who are best suited for their product, learning how to talk to them appropriately in a way that engenders trust, and how to tell their story. A lot of business owners really stink at telling their own story because it's very nerve-wracking. A lot of entrepreneurs would prefer to talk about anybody but themselves. And
Their
so,
product or service, right?
right. So learning how to tell the story in a way that helps people connect with what their life's mission is, and where they want to impact the world, and where they want to help the kingdom in the case of a business owner. And then from there, there's so many opportunities to tell your story within the Christian or conservative communities that a lot of typical marketing agencies have never touched. They don't. I often give the example. If I asked 100 marketing firms in the state of Indiana what the number one rated radio station in the state was, none of them would give the right answer, because the right answer is the Christian radio conglomerate run by Taylor University out of Fort Wayne area. But it's kind of off the radar because it's a Christian radio station. They don't take ads traditionally. And so, having worked in this space, even though much of it was in politics, you learn that those media communities that talk to people of faith, because that's often who we're talking to for politicians. And we help people plan how they can roll out and use some of those tools. We call it the secret ecosystem in our book, because it really is. A lot of people don't know. Hey, there's a way to talk. There are influencers you can partner with, Christian radio. There's email lists. There's all sorts of ways you could be talking to this audience that are outside the typical, let's just go buy a bunch of Facebook ads approach, which you're going to hear from everybody else.
Yeah. And so you're doing consulting where you meet with the company leaders and you help them to really get clear about what their story is, and then figure out the best places to reach them, Public Square and others.
Yeah. Yeah, and it runs the gamut. Some people we end up really serving as their marketing agency, but it's not necessarily our purpose to do that. Sometimes We just want to empower their team with an approach they've never thought of before. So we can work with people in different ways. We can come in and just do it. We can, show them the path and let them implement. So there's a lot of different ways. And they can also just read our book and get a bunch of our stuff for free, by reading it.
Well, and we say that because we'll give you a link, but we're offering it to your listeners for free. So we're not doing it to get you to buy our book. We'll take your money if you want to give it to them. You can get it for free.
Yeah.
Because we really feel passionate about this, and if we can just arm people with some information, again, you may not even need to talk to us.
Yeah. Awesome. And they can get the book at libertyspenders.com, correct?
Yeah, libertyspenders.com/CCB. We made a landing page just for you and your audience. So you can go there. You can get access to that for free. And you can also download, we dropped a hint about the data that we did. We did this nationwide survey and modeling, but you can also get what we call our data Bible there. So you can get a breakdown of who these people are, what kind of segments are there. Again, just to open your eyes to what's possible.
Yeah. You guys are the real deal. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but y'all set the record for the most donations generated from a political email campaign. Is that correct?
It's true. We did it in 2016 for Trump, and that was amazing. It was $2.6 million from that single email, which broke Obama's previous record. And then, we just came off this last election cycle, so we were very pleased to help Senator Ted Cruz. He raised the most money out of any candidate outside of President Trump, now President Trump. And so we've been doing this for a long time, and we know how to get people to take action, how to get them to donate. And so that's why, again, we're just so excited and just are really, really want to pass on this knowledge to business owners, because it's not just about profit. This is about, again, building community and about serving the kingdom. And so we'd love to take that skill set and help you do that with your business.
Love it. Remind me the title of the book again.
Liberty Spenders. And
that's the title of the book. Okay.
That's the title.
Yeah.
There's a long
it's also what we
subtitle.
It's also what we call our audience, our segment. They are Liberty Spenders, the 76.5 million, and then our book is called that too.
Good. Way to stay on brand. See, they are good marketers. Well, Kurt and Kristen, thank you so much for this stimulating conversation. I think a lot of us are going to really be more intentional and do more research on ways that we can partner with companies that share our values, and understand that y'all are here to help. libertyspenders.com. Thank y'all so much.
And thank you, Darren. We appreciate your leadership here. You've been doing this before we ever thought of it. So thanks for hosting us. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if so, we would greatly appreciate it if you'd leave us a quick rating and review for the Christianity and Business podcast on iTunes. You can get more information about HCU's Center for Christianity and Business and sign up to receive free access to all issues of the Christian Business Review Journal by visiting our website at christianityandbusiness.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to keep integrating biblical values into your business.